gratitude and appreciation to all our staff, all our educators, and all the work that's been done these last several weeks to get us to this point. So we will have an opportunity, all board directors will have an opportunity to jump in and share some comments at the end of our agenda. But I just want to, again, recognize our leader, Dr. Tucker, for all your great work in terms of leading us through and helping us navigate this crisis. But just want to also acknowledge your cabinet members, so many people who are supporting this tonight to make this happen, but also just all the great work that you and your cabinet have done to really keep the school system moving forward for the benefit of our kids. So just want to first of all acknowledge and thank you for that. So first thing on our order is to call roll call. So board directors, we'll begin with roll call. Director Chancho Shore.
Here.
Graziano.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Holtzman.
Here.
Lung.
Here. Here.
Meek,
Here.
and Ray is here. Next on our agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. And board directors, I'm going to kind of practice the sequence that we'll use for every one of our agendas. So, every one of our agenda items. So my first question will be, do you have any questions regarding the agenda? And just using proper etiquette for this kind of meeting, I'm going to go through roll call every time. So any questions about the agenda? Chancho Shore?
No questions.
Graziano?
No questions.
Hanson?
No questions.
Holtzman?
No questions.
Lung?
No questions.
Meek?
No questions.
And Ray, no questions. All right. So I will now entertain a motion to accept our agenda for tonight.
Move to accept the agenda. Second.
Motion made by Director Lung and seconded by Graziano. The next sequence will be just simply again to ask for any discussion or any comments before we vote. So any discussion or comments regarding the agenda? Chancho Shore?
No comments. No questions.
Graziano?
No questions.
Hanson?
No questions.
Holtzman?
None. Thanks.
Lung?
No, thank you.
Meek?
No, thank you.
And Ray, no as well. So we have a motion and a second to accept the agenda. Let's vote. Chancho Shore?
Aye.
Graziano?
Aye.
Hanson?
Aye.
Holtzman?
Aye.
Lung?
Aye.
Meek?
Aye.
Ray, aye, and that motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is the superintendent's report. And again, Dr. Tucker, just a great deal of accolades again for the work you've been doing. And we're looking forward just to hearing any updates that you can share with us at this time.
Oh, absolutely. And our entire board, I certainly want to thank our entire school community. I want to thank our board for your tremendous support and outreach. I want to do some justice to one of Dr. King's favorite sayings, and it was of this effect, and I know I'm going to chop it up. He said, the testament of a person or of a man or woman is not where he or she stands during a period of calmness, but where he or she stands during a time of turbulent storms. And I am so happy to speak on behalf of our administrators, our teachers, our support staff, that our community is standing strong during this time of turbulence. I just want to give the board some updates on a few major things that we're doing here in the district. But again, I want to thank our tremendous community for its outreach and support. First, I'll start with special education. Specialized instruction and related services has been accessible during this extended break to all students, whether these are students who have learning disabilities or not. These have been made available to all of our students through remote learning opportunities. Students are afforded a FAPE. All of our students are free and appropriate public education, which, as you can imagine, looks differently right now because of the remote learning formats that we have in the district. but nonetheless, services are being provided to students. Special education providers are making every effort to continue conducting special education evaluations and to hold virtual IEP meetings, even for those students who have concerns around speech and those students who have other issues that are being challenged with. We have the special opportunity to collaborate with our state Department of Education, the Colorado Department of Education, and we received a little guidance from the U.S. Department of Education relative to our students with disabilities. We are hoping to have additional guidance from both of those departments coming in the near future. We're lucky to have Google products here in the Douglas County School Districts. The products are for all FERPA, COPAA, that's online privacy for our children, and HIPAA compliant. So all of the products are certainly compliant. Special education providers have support from district departments for instructional and process questions with written guidance and interactive online support from leaders like Nancy. And in a couple minutes, I'm going to ask Nancy Ingalls to please jump in and add some additional insight. Special education coordinators and directors are available to address staff and parent questions and concerns. And we've seen this being done quite a bit. So Nancy, would you jump in and add some additional insight in terms of how we're ensuring that all of our students, especially our students with disabilities, are receiving a free and appropriate public education?
We're not hearing Nancy. Nancy Ingalls, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Welcome.
Thank you. I apologize. I have an echo in my ear. Thank you, Dr. Tucker, for providing that update. Our special education staff and all schools are working very hard to figure out how to do this remote service delivery, and they're all coming up with wonderful ideas and beginning to collaborate with parents on how this will be done while we are out of school. I encourage anybody who has questions to please reach out to your schools or our district staff, wherever relevant, and people are always here and ready to help.
Nancy, thank you. And I know a question has come up about waivers. The Douglas County School District has not, and I repeat, has not requested a waiver for a waiver of IEP services from the U.S. Department of Education or the Colorado Department of Education. Again, we have not done so. Moving on here, early childhood education and Child Find. Our ECE staff began providing resources for families to support ongoing early childhood development last week. ECE will communicate to all of our families this week to begin implementing remote learning opportunities for preschool students and families to begin Monday, March 30th, 2020. That's this coming up Monday. Child Find evaluations are continuing in a modified format for all families requesting evaluations for their children's age 0 to 5. And another important aspect here that we cannot certainly forget, that's mental health resources. Mental health resources, like all related services, are being provided through remote learning opportunities, individual and group. Mental health providers have access to many social emotional learning activities for students to do at home and during virtual sessions. Mental health providers are making every effort to continue conducting special education evaluations and to attend virtual IEP meetings. Mental health providers have support from district departments for service-related and process questions, with written guidance and interactive online support from our leaders. Information on remote school mental health services will be sent to parents by the mental health providers in English and Spanish versions. there's been some questions about school counseling. School counselors are available for students and parents. School counselors are reaching out to students for check-ins. Students have access to request a counseling session at any time. Students who receive ongoing counseling with their school counselor will continue to have regular contact with their counselor. Also, we'll continue group sessions. Our counselors will continue group sessions that were previously held in school virtually. High school counselors continue to do academic counseling and junior credit checks. Our elementary counselors are sending pre-recorded social emotional learning lessons to students and follow-up. We also have available on our website to address some safety concerns. Folks may be interested in community resources for families. We have all that listed, and also suicide risk assessment. Should a student present a concern during a mental health session, the mental health provider will do the DCSD safety assessment, which is huge, contact the parent and link them to the resources. And obviously we still have both safe to tell or text to tip. And should an imminent concern arise, law enforcement certainly will be contacted. Nancy, anything else you want to add as I gave that overview?
No, I think that you've covered everything. In terms of community resources, we know that our community agencies such as the Department of Human Services, all of our law enforcement jurisdictions, and the All Health Network are ready and prepared to help anybody in need.
Okay, very good.
If I may, just for our listening public, that was Nancy Ingalls, who is our personalized learning officer. So just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. She's isn't coming on with video, but her voice is who you heard tonight.
In the next area I want to talk about is remote learning opportunities. As you know, this is a maiden voyage for our district and many of the 13,500 public school districts across America. And our teachers, support staff, administrators are doing a tremendous job. And I also want to thank our students, our 68,000 students and their parents and guardians for really helping to help us navigate this new platform of learning. I want to give a quick overview of what has transpired since March 10th. On Tuesday, March 10th, our EDOS presented to all principals in face-to-face meetings in which we shared expectations for remote learning. This plan was in preparation should spring break be extended 1 week after our Douglas County School District spring break. Principals were asked to meet with their staff and pre-plan for the possibility of a closure, which also included assessing tech needs, students, and staff. On Wednesday, March 11th, in preparation, our IT team preemptively worked with their cellular provider to get 100 hotspots with a zero purchase price. So kudos to our IT team. On March 13th, DCSD school leaders and staff received notification that we would extend our spring break an additional week, along with a detailed email explaining our DCSD remote learning plan. And that plan has been shared with our community. Additional communication was sent directly to our principals as a reminder to share it to their staff to ensure that teachers received this information. Schools distributed computers to all families who needed a device. They also captured information to provide to IT for any families who may have challenges with Wi-Fi internet connectivity at home. Again, I've said this before, this was made possible through the community's generous support of 5A, 5B, the bond in particular, in November. Our IT also created a survey to follow up with parents who weren't able to pick up a device prior to the lockdown. On Monday, March 16th, DCSD placed an order of 1,000 Chromebooks. Working with a local vendor, we received preferential access to the inventory and received delivery on Friday, March 20th. On Monday, March 23rd, DCSD Technology Department started handing out computers to parents via a socially distant process with no contact. During the first 3 days of the week, the IT team, using a skeletal crew on site, handed out 600 computers and 50 hotspots to families in need of technology to support remote learning. And we've received quite a few thank you notes and kind notes from our parents and students in terms of making this happen. And a huge thank you to the Douglas County Libraries. They also donated as well. The Teaching and Learning Department, which includes PD for all staff, developed an exhaustive list of PD opportunities available to all staff. That's our certified, classified, administrative staff. So we're happy to have that list of PD opportunities. Those opportunities are available via remote learning. The technology team also created massively scalable support communities to respond to 100 of new support requests across various internal teams. So we had hundreds of questions, and our folks, our small team, was there to follow those questions. I've also been in communication with our staff, our union staff, to see what resources they have available, as well as to potentially support teachers during this process. Once we receive those union resources, they will be vetted by our Teaching and Learning Department, and results will be shared for the next steps. This coming Tuesday, many of you received the notification, I will be participating in a town hall meeting to address and bring up our staff to where we are now in this new remote learning environment. Speaking of remote learning environment, we sent an email out on March 13th, articulating what the expectations would be. Now, the week of March 23rd, all classified staff receive communication specifically around professional development, respective to their particular job duties. CIPG and IT continue to provide support and additional resources for staff. The Teaching and Learning Department has created a DCSD remote learning website for DCSD employees. If you haven't visited that site, please do so. We're currently working on parent resources as well to include both academic and mental health support in collaboration with personalized learning. So again, ensuring we have this balance of academic as well as mental health support. Our ELD department has been reaching out directly to families to provide both tech and academic support. The staff is also working in tandem with IT, food, nutrition, communication to meet the needs of those families. And our Teaching and Learning Department with IT continue to assess our teachers' needs this week and plan accordingly in collaboration with our PLS, school leaders, teacher leadership department, and IT. And that sort of wraps things up. But I do want to, again, compliment how all of our teams are collaborating together to meet the needs of our students, our 68,000 students and 8,000 plus staff. Our Chief Academic Officer, Marlena Gross, led a virtual meeting with all of our high school and alt ed principals to begin planning for alternative options regarding prom, graduation, including the DCSD community service graduation requirements. It is the recommendation of all of our high school and alt ed principals, along with cabinet, to waive, and obviously in consultation with the board, to waive the community service requirement for this year's 2020 graduates only. Alternate classes are being scheduled if needed for both May prom and summer graduation. So we're talking about that, including academic cabinet. Academic cabinet met this week and are planning the next steps for the extensions of remote learning through April 17th. Again, I'm very proud of the hard work our staff are doing to plan accordingly. And I'll ask Marlena or Gautam or any of our other cabinet members who've been instrumental in our remote learning to follow up with a few comments.
All right, we'll start out with Marlena Gross-Taylor, who is our Chief Academic Officer. Any follow-up comments, Marlena? Marlena, if you're there, we're not hearing you.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, yes, thank you, welcome.
Perfect, thank you. So kudos to everyone, not just on cabinet, but all of their team members, because to pull off something like remote learning for as many students as we have in our districts and teachers and other staff is a Herculean effort. And this is not something that teaching and learning could do or would want to do alone. So just want to give a huge heartfelt thanks to each of the cabinet members and their respective teams. A couple of updates in regards to our classified staff. We have the latest, and I want to share this because this is huge. Peggy Mueller shared this with me today, that over 576 courses have been completed online from just our classified staff this week since Monday. And over 400 classes are in process of being completed. And so I think that's a huge acknowledgement to make, because our classified staff are truly making use of this gift of time, which is the flip side of having something like this happen. We have the gift of time, and they're maximizing that to continue to sharpen the tools in their tool belt. Also, we have a website, a link to our district website that's just for our staff, all staff, around remote learning and expectations and those kinds of things, and tons of resources. So the PD is going to continue. Our teachers are going to receive even more PD opportunities where they can continue to sign up and fill in whatever areas that they feel they need help in, as well as receive one-on-one support from CIPG or IT or personalized learning or ASFO. So we're just really grateful to have all of these teams in place to help support our teachers so they can deliver instruction to our students. Last thing I'd like to mention, and again, this is a huge acknowledgement, and it just, I think, exemplifies how committed we are to kids. For our families that might have needed technology, to make sure no one was missed, our ELD department that's led by our director, Remy Rummel, and our IT department called each family, their teams called each of our families, our ELD families, to make sure that not only had they completed the surveys if they needed tech or a hotspot, but that they could understand it and translate it for them if needed. So I just want to, again, just give a huge shout out to those two teams for making sure, to the best of our ability, that we are meeting the needs of our families.
Thank you, Marlene. Dr. Tucker?
Yes, David, I also would be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the unintended consequences or some newness, some nouveau things, if you will, that have come about by operating in this this remote, if you will, environment, is the formation of these online communities, which, I mean, have been fantastic. Whether it's our SPED Google community or the gifted Google community, or just folks coming together, brainstorming how we can operate in this new environment for this time being. For example, our special education Google community has more than 450 members, now almost 500 members, collaborating and asking questions about how we can continue to go forward and ensure that each student, with a disability or not, has a free and appropriate public education. And so that's a nice thing to happen, unexpected thing to happen in this new environment.
Dr. Tucker, you'd also called out, I think, Gautam Sethi to see if you had
Yes.
any other additional words. Gautam Sethi, who is our Chief Technology Officer. Gautam, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Ray. Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Gautam Sethi. I would be remiss, I know Marlene already said this, if I didn't acknowledge the intensely hard work of all of the IT staff and all of the Douglas County staff members in coming together in about 10 days and doing something which normally would take us years to kind of turn around and do. So absolute kudos and absolute gratitude to all those people coming together. The only other thing I would add is we still see a demand in the need for technology, and we are continuing to capture that demand and fulfill it, managing within the constraints of the orders from the governor and the Tri-County Health to get technology out to people as we can, as best as we can. So there is still a demand in the system, and we will continue to fulfill that demand over the next few weeks.
Yeah. And Gautam, as we operate in this remote environment, obviously there are going to be some concerns, and we've had a few concerns expressed by parents regarding privacy. And I made mention of some things that we're doing earlier to protect the privacy of all of our students. Any concerns that you have relative to privacy in this new online environment?
I feel like all of us are trying to do the best we can in getting education to our students. The normal constraints around privacy, whether they are federal laws or local state laws, are going to be met. We'll just have to figure out how to manage to those needs as we bring on technology on board. But we are all very cognizant of it. We obviously, with staff working from home, the data security, what you would have when you work on the district network is slightly different when you're working from home, but it's all still pretty well manageable given the technology infrastructure we had built over the years.
Okay, very good.
Dr.
And
Tucker, was there someone else you wanted to call out on for your report?
I probably the last part, I want to spend some time celebrating the heroic work of our folks. Again, everyone, regardless of what your job title is, whether, we have central office folks pitching in like communication. I'm going to call out Stacy in the communications department here shortly, but also our folks who are volunteering to take meals to the doorsteps of our students and our parents, for those folks who don't have access to, don't have transportation, access to transportation, whether again, it's delivering of equipment or meals. We're very supportive of those folks. So it's been a total school community effort. And again, I want to thank Stacy and her department, because we know they have not slept in terms of keeping up with questions and concerns our community members have, and also pushing out information. So if I will, I want to take a few minutes to talk about some of the celebrations that we have here in the district. DCSD launched a dedicated coronavirus COVID-19 page on its website on February 28th. Since that time, we've added a vast amount, and I do mean a vast amount of information and links, including a subpage with resources for families and community members. A link to the resource page is now live on the Douglas County government's COVID-19 response page, and we'll continue each day to update this page as the situation evolves. DCSD has sent a variety of email updates starting on February 10th through the present to our families and staff as the COVID-19 situation has continued to evolve. These messages have been sent in English and Spanish. Russian and Mandarin versions are also available. Again, feel free to go to our district website. A couple weeks ago, right before spring break, I was interviewed along with the principal of Cimarron Middle School, Chris Zimmerman. We were interviewed by 3 really dynamic students there prior to the closure, and we created this podcast where we answered student questions and concerns related to COVID-19. We also asked the question, what are they going to do to relax in this environment? How would they spend their spring break? So we're so happy to get that podcast out before any of our closures began. We'll also ask our folks, Colleen and Jana, in our financial services office, if I'm sure they're on, to talk about the heroic work that DCSD's Nutrition Services Department has been doing. We are distributing over 1,700 meals per day. That's breakfast and lunch to students in our community, these students who are 18 and younger. And we will continue expanding this meal program starting next week because the demand is there. As of March 24th, our IT department had distributed, again, close to 500 Chromebooks, along with some mobile Wi-Fi spots to students and parents who need them for remote learning. This has been an eye-awakening moment for us in terms of looking at the homework gap, the opportunity gap, and the achievement gap as we start to zero in on technology. And we now can see very clearly if our students don't have access to technology, it's been impacting them certainly prior to this. Another opportunity for us to learn. We've received a variety, actually hundreds of positive emails on social media pages from parents regarding their child's teacher and remote learning taking place so far. Again, I'm so happy to have those resources in place prior to this, where the district was not scrambling and we had already planned to move into the remote learning environment. Our communications team is posting a variety of photos and videos of remote learning, as well as ways schools and teachers are staying in touch with their students. We ask schools and families, moms and dads, grandparents, please tag us in their posts using the hashtag DCSD family. Eldorado Elementary School, as you all know by now, their teachers' principal car parade went off with a hit, and it was featured on Fox 31 News. And we're going to make sure we keep our distance and we follow the governor's guidelines as well. But we do not want to lose the human element in this, because we were called to teach and we were called to interact with students. Education is relational. It's not transactional. It is relational. And so we want to continue demonstrating this during this tough time and beyond. And our public information officer, Paula Hahn, submitted an opinion piece by me to the Colorado Community Media and the Denver Post. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to convey some words of encouragement to our teachers, our support staff, every last one of our colleagues, each of our 8,400 colleagues, to let them know that they all play a key part in ensuring that remote learning is successful here in the district. And then also another shout out, my final shout out, I want to give Chris Shaleen a major shout out for putting together some videos on his own time in his home, celebrating the great things that are happening here and the great learning opportunities that are happening in our district. And the last thing I'll say, folks, do we have all the answers? No. This is a scary time for all of us, but what I do know, if we all come together, we all collaborate, we can get through this and ensure every student, each of our 68,000 students, has a meaningful learning experience.
Very good, Dr. Tucker. Wow, thank you so much for those updates. It's just a reminder of the intricacies of the school system, just to hear you list all the things that we have to consider. I mean, it's just, it's huge. And I think it's important, like what you said at the end, that it is about relations, and we can't wait to get back to that place, because this is certainly not a desired replacement for what public education is all about. And for people to think this is an easy thing to do and it's just as effective, they're wrong. This is our best effort, and I think we're seeing great results. And I would agree with you, Dr. Tucker, that a lot of unsung heroes during this time. So I do want to pause and go through our roll call. Board directors, if you have comments, reactions, or questions to Dr. Tucker's update, we'll do that at this time. We'll start with Director Chancha Shore.
I just want to comment that all of those wonderful things are happening because of people, and remote learning doesn't occur without teachers that are in front of their computers working one-on-one or in groups with kids. And I personally have not been able to experience watching any of that occur except for online watching. And I am so proud of our Douglas County School District teachers and our Douglas County kids taking on this challenge and doing it with vim and vigor and lots of positive results occurring. So again, just want to thank the teachers for the work that they've done in this remote learning process.
Thank you, Director Chancha Shore. And again, board directors, questions or reactions to the report we just heard from Dr. Tucker. Director Graziano.
I would just like to thank everyone from Dr. Tucker all the way, the entire staff, all our students, the entire community. I guess the way I would look at this is what I have seen is such a willingness and a push to pivot so quickly and doing so much. I mean, the list of things that Dr. Tucker and his staff has just gone through, just incredible, and in such a short amount of time, and doing so and doing it gracefully with a calm hand and with no panic. I think it just is such an amazing thing that we're witnessing. And I think down the road, we're going to look back at this and be like, wow, look at how well DCSD, the community managed this. So, I'm super excited to hear about this, even in these tough times, but kudos to everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Graziano. Director Hansen.
I have been in a 3rd grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade classroom all day and have, I have never appreciated what our teachers do on a daily basis more than I do sitting here right now today. I am so grateful for each and every one of our teachers and all of our staff at DCSD that have made this possible. It has been hard. Every day is hard in a classroom, I have learned, and I'm just so grateful for all of you.
Very good. Thank you, Director Hansen. Director Holtzman. Oops, Director Holtzman, you are still muted. Director Holtzman, you're still muted. Yeah, still muted. Not yet. You're still muted, Director Holtzman.
All right, I think, can you hear me?
There you go. There you go.
Sorry about that. I would just echo the thanks of my colleagues. Very thorough report of many of the things going on, and so many of them are just huge celebrations. And I really appreciate our leadership, our teachers, our staff, and everybody coming together, our community. And I appreciate that we are able to give each other a little grace in this time when, we're all faced with this crisis. And I just appreciate the way people have been working together and supporting one another. And most of all, I probably really appreciated hearing tonight the recognition of how important it is for us to continue our intentional focus on emotional, social, emotional, and mental wellness. I just think that now more than ever, it's always been a priority of our board and of our district, but I think now more than ever, we have to continue that focus, and I appreciate the efforts we're doing in that area.
Very good. Thank you, Director Holtzman. Director Lung.
Well, I sat with my high school kid today, and I want to echo the rest of the directors said. They did a tremendous job in such a short time to come up with courses for high school students, and it is quality work. And God bless, our teacher, administrator, and all the other staff during this difficult time. And their focus is on a student, which is not easy, knowing that the health crisis is going on. Furthermore, I want to mention our excellent work of our finance departments, and they did a wonderful job of keeping us keeping our staff get paid and make sure that the financial situations of our district is in order, understand, and doing some projections to deal with the financial crisis and also potential recessions that's coming up. And I want to thank Jenna and Colleen for their wonderful leaderships in the absence of a permanent CFO, which is not an easy task, to do. And finally, I think in time of crisis, it shows that people are truly working together, from our sheriff's departments, our Dallas County Commissioner, down to the Dallas County Federations, which do not have any contract or CBD with us, but they all work together, and they doing the part to make sure that we all overcome this crisis as one voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Long. Director Meek.
So I too would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of our staff and our families and our students for all that you're doing. We are certainly in unprecedented times with social and emotional disruption like I don't think we've ever seen before. And history really shows us leaders step up during times like this. And I can say I am so proud of how our staff has stepped up to serve our community
And I think we are building trust and strengthening our community. And I just want to remind everyone to make sure that you take care of yourselves as well. I know how hard you are all working nonstop to serve our community. And please remember to take time to take care of yourselves, because that's necessary to take care of others. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, Director Meek. All right, thank you, directors, for those comments. And again, I don't know if Superintendent fainted. Oh, there he is. I wondered if you fainted from all the work you've been doing. Now we see you again. Next on our agenda, and again, Dr. Tucker, thank you. Well said, and we will certainly bring you back in here in a little bit for some other comments. We're going to move on though to our study action items. The first one is a resolution to temporarily suspend restrictions for board members to attend meetings electronically. As I stated when we first started this meeting, is that our current policy only allows us to do this kind of remote meeting when we're calling a special meeting. And this resolution certainly reflects the current times, the current crisis. It also reflects some recent legislation that is also encouraging to make it more flexible for us to meet remotely with regular board meetings as well as special meetings. There's been a couple of changes. So I'm going to read this in to the public because we've got a couple of inserts, just because this is how quick information changes. For the public's benefit, when you read a resolution, it's formatted in such a way that the whereas statements are really factual statements about the current state or the current situation that causes us to need to act. So when you see the whereas statements, that leads up to the action, and then you'll see a statement that says now therefore, which is actually the action that we're taking. So with this particular resolution, I'm going to begin with the statement that this says, whereas on March 10th, 2020, Governor Jared Polis declared a state of emergency and issued an executive order on March 11th, 2020 to mitigate against the further spread of COVID-19. And on March 18th, 2020, Governor Polis signed an executive order suspending in-person learning in public and private schools across the state from March 23rd to April 17th. And on March 25th, 2020, Governor Jared Polis issued an amended public health order pursuant to the governor's directive and executive order directing Coloradoans to stay at home whenever possible. And in our Colorado Revised Statute 2232-108, it defines parameters and conditions for meetings of the Board of Education and allows the adoption of a policy authorizing board members to attend and participate in regular or special meetings electronically. And in our current policy, BEAA, electronic participation in school board meetings restricts electronic participation to only special meetings of the board and not regular meetings, and requires a quorum of the board to be physically present in order for other board members to attend and participate by electronic means. And where we also have a board policy, BG, that authorizes the board to temporarily approve a new board governance policy or new district policy to meet emergency conditions under unusual circumstances. And where we just recently signed into law, the state legislature signed into law House Bill 2013-01 that amends the Colorado Revised Statute 2232-108 to allow board members to participate electronically, and that they can be included in the number of members present necessary to convene a meeting. So those are all the facts and the statements that have led up to our desire to take action to make some temporary suspension of restrictions to our current policy. I will just editorialize that we are not setting new policy. We're not updating our policy. We're simply requesting that we suspend these restrictions until at a later date we can become more thoughtful when we're out of crisis mode to decide if we want to permanently change our policies. So now therefore be it resolved that Douglas County School District Board of Education will temporarily suspend the restrictions stated in board policy BEAA to allow for the following things. All board members will be able to attend and participate electronically in all regular or special meetings of the board during this pending health, safety, and welfare emergency. Also, a quorum of the board it can be established by a sufficient number of members being present at the meeting, either physically or electronically. All board members who participate electronically to vote and to be included in the recording of the board meeting. And all board members participating electronically to have real-time access to any materials that are presented. So therefore, be it further resolved that this temporary suspension of board policy BEAA restrictions will commence on March 26th today, and the date of the passage of this resolution, and shall continue to be extended through the period of time of the state of emergency restricting in-person learning in the public schools of Colorado. So this temporary restriction would just carry us through until our students are safe to return back to their physical facilities to do school. So with that, I'm going to go through our roll call to see if there's any questions to our resolution. Director Chancho Shore.
No questions.
Director Graziano.
No questions.
Director Hansen.
No questions.
Director Holtzman.
No questions.
Director Lung.
No question.
Director Meek.
I think I would just add that actually the governor put an updated executive order out today to clarify that education is an essential service. So this just came out. It may be worth referencing today's executive order that actually speaks to K-12 public and private schools for the purpose of providing meals, housing, facilitating or providing materials for distance learning, and providing other essential services to students. He actually added that specific call out today for education.
So Director Meek is recommending that we insert a statement updating the executive order that was amended today. And I see that Director Meek, you have that written down so that we can give that to Mrs. Taylor to insert into this resolution. Would anybody object to having that update and insertion? If you do, just speak now or forever hold your peace.
So, Director Holtzman.
Sorry, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Director Holtzman and then Director Lung.
So I don't necessarily object at all. I guess I would recommend that our legal counsel be given the opportunity to add that and look at the language. And perhaps that's already happened. So just kind of throwing that out there.
And at that, I know we have legal counsel Mary Klimish on the line. Mary, any concern with us inserting the verbiage that Susan Meek or Director Meek just read? I'm not hearing Mrs. Klimish. So Mrs. Klimish, I don't know if you...
And
there she, oh, wait, hang on, Mrs. Klimish.
oh, here I am. This is Mary Klimish. Can you hear me? First, I would like to say, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. So my only comment is that I did recognize that the there was an amended executive order issued by Governor Polis today. I do not believe, however, even though this language is very relevant to K-12 education, I don't see this being relevant to the board's holding of a meeting. I don't have any opposition to it necessarily being included in this resolution, but I don't see it as being related to how the board is able to hold its meeting electronically and remotely. And so I just tossed that out there. I think that typically resolutions identify very specific circumstances directly related to the action taken by the board. And that would be my only caveat. I don't see those particular provisions being directly related to holding this meeting electronically.
Thank you, Ms. Klimish. Director Holtzman or Director Meek, then I'll get to Director Lung. Director Holtzman, any reaction to that comment? Oops, Director Holtzman, you're muted still.
No, I'm just thinking, it's taking me a minute.
Okay.
So I think what I heard our general counsel say is that she has no objection. She doesn't find it necessary essentially, but has no objection. So I guess I would take that same position.
All right. Director Meek, any reaction to what you just heard commented by Director Holtzman and or Mrs. Clemish?
My only reason for bringing it up was that it's the most current one, and it is emphasizing K-12's role. And if people are looking at our resolution and referencing the executive order, I just thought it would be, one worth mentioning. I don't have strong feelings with keeping it as is as well. So.
Okay, thank you. And now Director Long.
Well, my only comment is that this is really moving really fast, and every day could have something new. I think the current resolutions give us enough authority to have a meeting electronically. And since I did not see the governor's order today, and neither does, I guess, many of you, I'm just a little bit hesitated to insert a language into the resolutions, and that language do not necessarily enhance the resolutions or make us, given us more authority to do things. So I think if we insert something like that, it's probably in the whereas, not in the therefore. So it probably strengthens the resolutions, but it does not really affecting, the outcome of the resolutions, right? So my preference will be just stay as it is.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion. If your motion is to amend the resolution with the language, please state that, or your motion may be to simply approve the resolution as written. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the resolution as written.
I second.
Motion made by Director Meek, seconded by Lung. Now we will go through discussion and any other remarks. Director Chancho-Shore,
No comments, no discussion.
Director Graziano,
No comments.
Director Hansen,
No comments.
Director Holtzman,
No, none, thank you.
Director Lung,
I'm good, thank you.
and Director Meek.
No comment.
All right, very good. And we have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution as written. Let's vote. Director Chancho-Shore,
Aye.
Graziano,
Aye.
Hansen,
Aye.
Holtzman,
Aye.
Lung,
Aye.
Meek,
Aye.
Ray is an aye. That motion passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is a resolution for the maintenance of employee compensation during the state of emergency. Again, our first two whereas statements reference the governor's orders regarding the crisis that we are currently in. In addition, it says the third whereas statement says, in response to the executive order, Douglas County School District closed all its facilities, including school buildings, administrative offices, before and after school, enterprise-based preschool programs, outdoor ed, and facility rentals. And due to such closures, district teachers have been directed to provide students with remote learning opportunities beginning March 24th, 2020. And due to such closures, district staff need to temporarily adjust to a scheduled workday in which some employees are required to work from home, while other employees, due to the nature of their jobs, may be required to work on site. And the superintendent has recommended that despite such closures, all regular employees, certified, licensed teachers and staff, classified groups, pro-tech, administrative employees, transportation, preschool, and long-term substitutes should continue to receive their normal compensation, their base pay, and benefits during this time when facilities are closed, and should continued closure be necessary through the remainder of the school year. And the superintendent forecasts that the budgetary impact of continuing to compensate all enterprise program regular employees, such as nutrition services, before and after school, and Stone Canyon Outdoor Ed, with their base pay and benefits, may require an expenditure of approximately $600,000 from enterprise programs reserves fund balance. And again, the emphasis being that those enterprise programs have their own funds that they would utilize. This would not come out of the general fund. So those are all the statements that lead up to our action, which is to now therefore be it resolved that Douglas County School District supports the superintendent's recommendation to continue compensating regular employees with their base pay and benefits during this time when facilities are closed, and should continued closure be necessary through the remainder of the school year, and further approves the use of enterprise programs reserve fund balance to fund continuing compensation of enterprise program regular employees during this period of time. At this time, I'll open it up to questions regarding this resolution. Director Chancho Shore.
My comment refers to, and my question refers to Dr. Tucker and Marlena Gross Taylor's comments earlier in the report that some people are being repurposed and some people are being asked to do some kind of different work, as well as continued trainings that are occurring. So I wanted to just reemphasize and highlight that there are many things that are occurring. People aren't just able to be excused from needing to be available should there be a reason or a purpose, and that there are many things occurring in our district to help with things we may not have had time to do before. Some online learning courses were an example.
So it sounds like Dr. Chandrashore, you're answering your own question, but you're capturing, I believe, what you have heard the answer from Dr. Tucker. And the question being, are we repurposing our employees that aren't able to come on site? And are we providing them with some other opportunities like Director Chandrashore already stated with regards to taking advantage of online professional development? So I might just pause there real quickly and ask Dr. Tucker for affirmation of the remarks that Director Chandrashore just made.
Director Ray and all of our directors, I do affirm Director Chandrashore's statement. I also want to add that we are looking very closely at seeing what potential opportunities are available for instance, our bus drivers who don't drive for us permanently, who are not on long-term assignments, but who may drive for us on occasion. We're trying to find additional work opportunities for those staff as well. I will certainly ask our Chief Director of Human Resources, Amanda Thompson, if she would add any further clarification.
Amanda Thompson's voice will come on, and Amanda is the Chief Human Resource Officer. Ms. Thompson, are you there? Amanda, we're not hearing you yet. Amanda Thompson, are you there? One more check for Amanda Thompson. Amanda Thompson, are you there?
Yeah, I'm hearing some clicking in the background, so she may be trying to get on, but we can go over to, hold on, there's another clip. Marlena, would you like to jump in regarding PD? Marlena?
The question is going to Marlena Gross Taylor, our Chief Academic Officer. Marlena, are you still on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we absolutely have more than enough professional development opportunities for any staff, including our classified staff, no matter what their job title might be. So again, so they can take advantage of this gift of time. The stats that I shared earlier were just from Monday, really towards the end of the day, Monday, to today, end of day today, because that's when our classified staff received all of the different opportunities for PD. Of course, we always defer to their supervisors. So if their job has to be repurposed to take care of essential things in their department, they definitely, should heed to that. But if they have other or extra time or just other things, or they finish up, we want to make sure that they're maximizing that time. So we have repurposed our PD planning for the year to accommodate, as we should, our classified staff and then also our certified staff.
Thank you, Ms. Gross Taylor. And then just one more call out for Amanda Thompson. Did we get Amanda Thompson on and unmuted? Nope, seeing that there's still technical difficulties, but thank you. That does seem to answer the question that Director Chancho-Shore raised. Directors, again, we're going to go down the list, and I would ask that you form your statement in a question, and then we'll have time for discussion and remarks after we take a motion on this resolution. Director Graziano,
No comments.
Director Hansen,
No questions or comments.
Director Holtzman.
Yeah, so I really appreciate this recommendation to value our employees and to maintain compensation. And I also really appreciate the work that our Budget and Finance Department has done answering many questions of my own, and I'm sure of other directors. Just really appreciate those responses. There's a couple that I would just like to give you an opportunity to explain for our public, for those who might have had some of the same concerns as I had. So I guess I'll put those questions out there and let you answer it in the way that you'd like. But basically my question has to do with our reserves and how our response to the pandemic might affect our budget overall. If you feel that we have sufficient reserves to approve this resolution, especially understanding that in 2009 and 2010 school year, during the time of the last recession, there was a time that the legislature made a mid-year adjustment to the amount of funding that schools got, K-12. Assuming that's not going to happen this year, we have no reason at this point to believe that that would. I just wanted to make sure to let the public know that you've considered all that. And if you could explain to them that even if that happened, you know, using similar numbers as how they reduced our funding in 2009-10, even if that were to happen, if you could let them know that what our reserves would look like.
Yes, I will make a few comments, and then I'll ask Jana and Colleen, to our interim CFOs, to jump in. First, we've been blessed, if you will, very fortunate to be in the financial shape that we're in, and demonstrating that we've been great stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, certainly as evidenced by the passage of 5A, 5B in the fall. We are not dipping into our reserves for the remainder of this year like some of our neighbors are. And I'm sure that they're going to work hard to not spend much of their reserves. We're only asking the board for $21,000 to assist us with our folks who are coming, our, if you will, our essential folks who are coming in and helping us with food service, with ensuring that our buildings are properly cleaned and disinfected once we do open. And we're able to pay those folks a little overtime. And again, only $21,000. Again, it speaks to the great management from our finance department. It also speaks to the great planning by our board and keeping the focus on our number one asset. Those are our people, our students and staff. So reserves are not necessarily, the general fund reserves, I should say, are not an issue right now. Could we be impacted by the 2021 school year if, in what you just described, Director Holtzman, where our folks decide to cut back school funding? I'll ask Colleen and Janet to jump in, but I also want to give kudos to our folks who run our enterprise programs. When we asked our folks to help us out, there was not any hesitation. They went directly to the reserves, their savings account, to help make this as less painful in our district as possible. Again, that speaks to the absolute great management of the district. And now I'll ask Colleen and Janet to jump in.
So the voices you're going to hear are Colleen Doan and Janice Slicener from our finance department, who are currently serving in the interim position of Chief Financial Officer. Colleen, or let's start with Colleen. Are you there?
Yes, this is Colleen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
All right, great. So our estimated general fund unassigned reserve balance before the impact of COVID-19 was approximately $21 to $24 million. So this is unassigned reserve excluding the items like TABOR and the Board of Education reserves, which we assign per various state law or board policies. If we had a mid-year impact, which again, we are not contemplating, and the state has not indicated that they would do a mid-year rescission to the current year, that could potentially be 11 million if it were done the same way as in the 2009-2010 school year mid-year recession. Again, that's just utilizing that same information. However, to stress that we do not anticipate that to happen, and the state has not indicated that they're contemplating doing a mid-year recession. So we're very fortunate on that. As we look at our reserves, we are estimating a use of $120,000 for the essential staff. If all essential staff as estimated based upon preliminary hours needed for on-site were used, but that is again just an estimate as we do not have all of the data yet on how many hours will be needed as we require staff on site during the closure weeks. So I'll turn over to Jana if she would like to add anything additional on the reserves.
Jana Schleissner, welcome.
Hi, this is Jana. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I was on a call this morning with CDE for about 2.5 hours, and a lot of the concerns that you bring up are very legitimate and good questions to be asking at this time. I'm watching more the cash flow side while Colleen watches the budget and the reserves. The concern right now is about when those property taxes are coming in. Right now is when we receive about 140 million of our property taxes that come in a couple big chunks. So we're watching to make sure that that property tax keeps flowing in to fund our all of these compensation and other expenditures that we have going on. So far, we expect that to be pretty close to normal. They also stated that the state equalization payments should come in without interruption for the remainder of the year. It's next year that they're looking at those shortfalls and potentially an $800 million shortfall in the state budget. So we'll be continuing to watch what that means for future years and if that budget stabilization factor comes back into effect. So that's where we're watching those.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Schleissner. Director Holtzman, was there another question you had before I move on?
No, actually, Ms. Schleissner already answered it. So those were my questions, and I really appreciate those answers. So thank you.
Very good. And if you're just tuning in, just answers to questions regarding this resolution for extending compensation through the closure, or if closure continues through the end of the year. We've heard certainly that personnel who are unable to perform their duties, that we are in process of figuring out how to provide those personnel other opportunities, which includes professional development. And we're also hearing that from a financial perspective, because of where we are with our reserves, that we don't have concerns about the impact this resolution might have. There's been some mention of $120,000, and just to clarify, board directors, that's not in this resolution because our superintendent certainly has the authority to spend that amount without bringing that before the board. So just to clarify that, as well as to our public, that is certainly the authority of the superintendent to make that decision. Other questions, Director Lung?
No.
Questions, Director Meek?
No questions.
All right, and at this time then I will entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
Motion to pass these resolutions as it is.
Second.
Motion made by Director Long and seconded by Director Holtzman. We will now go into discussion and or remarks. Director Chancho Shore. Whoops, Director Chandrashore, hang on. I think there you go.
No additional discussion except the continued wanting to be able to communicate all of the different things that people in our school district are doing that are continuing to be paid, because it's about assuring our community that people are continuing to work, just maybe repurposing.
Very good. Thank you, Director Chandrashore. Director Graziano,
No additional comments.
Director Hansen,
No questions or comments.
Director Holtzman,
No, none. Thank you.
Director Lung.
Well, again, I want to thank you, Colleen and Jenna. They did wonderful jobs. They give an excellent presentations, and on top of all this financial matter, knowing that we don't have a CFO and they take up their own job, plus being a co-CFO, which is very, very difficult. And I also want to thank our FOC, Financial Oversight Committee, which give us the input on the financial matter. Thank you.
And I would just clarify that we do have CFOs, Director Lung, and I know what you intended to say, but certainly these two individuals are serving as our chief financial officers. So I certainly don't want the public to think that we're operating without a CFO. These both Jana and Colleen are doing an incredible job serving in that capacity. Director Meek.
No comment. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion to approve this resolution as written in a second. Let's vote. Director Chandrashore.
Aye.
Director Graziano.
Aye.
Hansen.
Aye.
Holtzman.
Aye.
Lung.
Aye.
Meek.
Aye.
Ray, aye. That motion passes unanimously. Our final resolution is one that we've titled a resolution to increase responsiveness and decision-making efficiency during a state of emergency. This resolution, the gist of this resolution is just to highlight us wanting to provide more flexibility for the superintendent, although certainly in a governing structure like ours, many of the things we list here are certainly in the purview of the superintendent already. But I think what has been best practice for Dr. Tucker has always been to consult with the board before making some of these decisions. And so we wanted to present this resolution as a way to give him permission to make quick decisions based on all the work he does with his staff, and not necessarily be bounded to having to present to the board first because of the state of emergency we're in. So again, this resolution begins with acknowledging the state of emergency that Jared Polis has signed in. It also acknowledges under the Colorado Constitution, Article 9, Section 15, that the local Board of Education has control of instruction in its public schools. And Colorado Revised Statute 2232-110, the local Board of Education has the authority to employ a superintendent to administer the affairs and programs of the district pursuant to a contract. And in our policy governance structure, we subscribe to the principles of policy governance and have delegated to the superintendent authorization to, quote, use any reasonable interpretation of the board's ends and executive limitation policies to make all decisions, take all actions, establish all practices, develop all activities and rules or procedures as necessary. We also have a policy CBA-CBC that identifies the powers and responsibilities of the superintendent, in which those include delegating management responsibilities to the superintendent of all activities of the district, to all phases of the educational program, and to all parts of the physical plant. And the Board of Education finds that the current state of emergency requires exceptions be made to current practices regarding district activities, the educational program, and managing district assets and resources. Those are all the statements that lead up now to our action, which states, be it resolved that Douglas County School District Board of Education will deploy the following actions to increase responsiveness and decision-making efficiency during this state of emergency. First of all, the superintendent is directed to create and manage a crisis team, which shall include, at a minimum, members of the district's cabinet, the school board president, and the school board vice president. Such crisis teams shall meet regularly to monitor actions taken under this emergency resolution and to support implementation strategies, Such meetings shall be held at the direction of the superintendent, but no less than once per week, and consistent with any emergency and/or executive orders directed by state and federal government officials. The superintendent is directed to identify and request any waiver to board policies and/or board policy provisions necessary to comply with guidance and direction from appropriate health and governmental authorities. The superintendent is granted authority to take all lawful actions necessary to ensure that the continuation of public education, to provide for health and safety of students and employees, and to respond and comply with guidance and directions from appropriate health and government authorities. The superintendent is granted authority necessary to enter into contracts to purchase materials, equipment, supplies, or services for sanitation, cleaning, technology, or other needs directly related to the COVID-19 emergency situation, provided such action is otherwise consistent with applicable state and federal laws. Pursuant to present board policy and this resolution, the superintendent shall have the authority to take all actions necessary, including but not limited to the following scenarios: adjustments to the curriculum, student evaluation processes, requirements for student graduation and grade advancement, and the provision of educational program options, adjustments to employee work schedules, evaluation procedures and timelines and assignments, modifications to the school calendar, activities and events, adjustments to the delivery of school-provided meals, limitations to access of property owned or controlled by the Board of Education, applications to any governmental body for financial or other aid as may be available, applications to any governmental body for waiver of regulations or requirements. And we've listed several requirements that we have around student programming. And I appreciated the comments that Dr. Tucker and Mrs. Ingalls made at the beginning of our meeting, that this is no way indicating that we're asking the superintendent to apply or ask for a waiver or exempt our obligation from carrying out these responsibilities, but we also recognize that we have to deliver these services differently. And so the word waiver in this case is just asking that, or giving the superintendent authority to allow our staff to deliver those services as best as possible given the circumstances. Now therefore be it resolved that this temporary deployment of actions will remain in effect for the duration identified in the governor's order and any subsequent extension of that order unless this resolution is rescinded or extended by the board upon a 2/3 majority vote. Be it also resolved that the superintendent is directed to keep the Board of Education informed of any actions taken under this emergency authority as soon as it is practical in light of the circumstances, excuse me. And then also be it resolved that the execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the board's approval of this action and the authority granted herein. So with that, I will again go through and ask if there's any questions. Again, let's make sure we're asking questions, directors. I will also, again, of course, after we take a motion, allow for discussion remarks. So questions at this time, Director Chancho Shore.
No questions.
Director Graziano.
No questions.
Director Hansen.
No questions.
Director Holtzman.
No questions.
Director Lung.
I have a questions. In the therefore area, it mentions the governor's order, the governor's order of March 18, 2020. But I do not see that list in the whereas to specify which order are you referencing on that day.
Thank you, Director Lung, for that question. I'm looking at that as well and just seeing if that is. So the March 18th, we actually referenced in our other resolutions, and that was an executive order suspending in-person learning in public and private schools. So I think Director Lung is correct. We ought to insert that statement as a whereas in this resolution as well. So when someone makes a motion, I would just ask that you make the motion with the amendment to insert a whereas statement regarding the March 18th executive order. Thank you for that, Director Lung. Is there any other questions, Director Lung?
No, that's it.
All right, Director Meek.
I think my only question would be for our legal counsel, Mary Clemish, to weigh in on whether the executive order from even March 26th today would have value for being listed.
And we're sending that
Yes.
question to Mrs. Clemish. Go ahead, Mrs. Clemish.
Yes, this is Mary Clemish, General Counsel. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I do believe and think that inclusion of Director Meek's suggestion relevant to Governor Polis's updating his order to specify that that critical services to be provided include K-12 public and private schools for the purpose of providing meals, housing, facilitating, or providing materials for distance learning, and providing other essential services to students be included in a whereas provision. So I would propose, consistent with Director Lung's comments as well as Director Meek's comments, that we add two additional whereas provisions. The whereas provision identifying the order signed on March 18th by Governor Polis, which would state, quote, whereas on March 18th, 2020, Governor Jared Polis signed an executive order suspending in-person learning in public and private schools across the state from March 23rd to April 17th, semicolon, and then additionally to add another whereas provision that would begin, quote, whereas on March 25th, 2020, Governor Jared Polis issued an amended public health order directing Coloradans to stay at home, and on March 26th, 2020, further updated the order to clarify that critical services within his order included semicolon K-12 public and private schools for the purpose of providing meals, comma, housing, comma, facilitating or providing materials for distance learning, comma, and providing other essential services to students, semicolon, unquote, and then another and. My apologies, before the unquote.
Very good. Thank
and
you.
Thanks to Director Lung and Director Meek for contributing those suggestions.
Indeed. So we're looking for a motion, directors, that would approve the resolution with the amended whereas statements as publicly read to record by legal counsel Clemish.
Motion to approve as stated by our legal counselor, Mary Clemish.
So motion's been made to accept the resolution with the amended whereas statements as stated by General Counsel Clemish. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Long, seconded by Graziano. We'll go through discussion and or remarks. Director Chancho Shore,
No discussion.
Graziano,
No comments or questions.
Hanson,
No comments or questions.
Holtzman,
No comments or questions.
Long,
No, thank you.
Meek.
No comments.
Very good. And we have a motion and a second. Let's vote. Director Chancho Shore,
Aye.
Graziano,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Holtzman,
Aye.
Long,
Aye.
Meek.
Aye.
Ray is an aye. Again, resolution as amended passes unanimously. All right, last on our agenda, board, is just simply any other remarks or considerations as we continue to move forward. I know we made lots of remarks at the beginning in reaction to Superintendent Tucker's report and updates, but this is just a time for you to make any other comments or remarks or future considerations that we should make. We'll begin with Director Chancho Shore.
I have no further comments.
Director Graziano.
I'm just going to say I'm very excited about having a school here in my house and following the lay of the land here and all of our students learning and having a great experience. So continued success as we pivot to this new norm and come out great on the other side.
I couldn't read your sign, Dr. Graziano. Can you?
That is a sign that my daughter hangs in her room when she goes onto a Zoom call with her teacher. So there you
Zoom
go.
call in session. I love it. That's great. That's great. All right. Thank you, Director Graziano. Director Hansen.
I actually would love to just take a second and talk to our parents. And then I'm going to ask Dr. Tucker to chime in as well. But this is hard. This has been incredibly hard. I know that every aspect of our day-to-day routines have been changed, and that's hard for adults and that's hard for kids. I wish that there was something profound that I could say and make the next, the undetermined amount of time easy for all of us. But I've tried to offer encouragement to friends and family and have found myself within 2 hours doing the exact opposite of what I have encouraged them to do. And I myself have raised my voice. I have had tears at our kitchen table. It has been hard. And my middle child shared with me on Tuesday. He said, "No offense, Mom, but my teacher can handle 30 students better than you can handle 3." From the mouths of babes. So my profound inspiration this evening comes from my 11-year-old. I had to accept and realize that I could not fill the incredible shoes of the educators that my kids are so lucky to have in their lives. And when I quit trying to do everything perfectly and follow every direction was when we finally started having good days at school. And I just want our parents to hear from our board, and I'd also like them to hear from Dr. Tucker that we do not expect you to be perfect. There is so much pressure. There is so much emotion right now, and being a perfect teacher is not a pressure that you need to add to your day-to-day routine or your child's day-to-day routine. So Dr. Tucker, if there is anything that you could just weigh in to encourage our parents just to do their very best and help us just have a good reminder from you that our best is good enough, I think that would really mean a lot I know it would mean a lot to me and any other parent out there who is struggling to find a new normal in this new world.
Dr. Tucker.
Yes, thank you, Director Hansen. I think you, or all of us should give you a round of applause. You did a great job of expressing our sentiments. As I mentioned earlier, there is a piece that's going to our media, our print media, and it should be online in the next couple of days, in which I give such gratitude to our parents in that they're helping us make this what seems like an impossible, but certainly a daunting journey possible for our children, that we're helping to give our kids some meaningful learning opportunities. And again, this is a tribute to our staff, but equally commendable for our parents. And we know these are different times. We've asked our parents to now come on board and be almost full-time teachers. But we do know we live in a great state, we live in a great county, we have a great school district, and we'll answer the bell.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Tucker. All right. Director Holtzman.
So thank you. And I know that myself and all of the board really appreciate your comments, Director Hansen, and fully supports our parents in this effort also. So as I was thinking about, I saw on the agenda, there was a time for board director reflection, basically here at the end. I was thinking about it today and realized that, during a crisis, sometimes it's difficult to just see past that initial shock and the loss and the hardship. But hopefully, over time, we find time to kind of reflect on what's really important in life. So I hope and I believe that that's given us all an opportunity to really think about and contemplate how important our schools are to our community and how important public education is. I think just as Director Hansen was describing the remote learning that's happening in our students' homes right now, just having a greater appreciation for our teachers, a greater appreciation for the opportunities school gives our students beyond academics, the opportunity to have relationships with other classmates, to get care and support from teachers and staff, even just getting nutrition at school, participating in extracurricular activities, and basically just having those social interactions that allow our students to grow and develop and learn to navigate the world. And I just kind of wanted to shout out to public education and to having the time today to think about how important it really is to not just our students, but to our entire community. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Holtzman. Director Long?
Well, one of our great presidents, Kennedy, used to say, the Chinese world crisis has two parts. One stands for danger and the other one stands for opportunity. So in a crisis like that, they are aware of the danger, but we also need to recognize the opportunity, that we have. In such a short time, our wonderful school district and our teacher, our administrator, all bring together the learning that we require when everybody needs to stay home. I think that create an opportunity for our community to much better appreciate what the school district does for our children, our family, our community. I think that's a plus, even though it's difficult for our teacher and administrator. Today, the government announced that we have one of the highest historical weekly unemployment rate of around 3.28 million people that lost their jobs. That is so sad, but it also shows that our school district, through the resolution we just passed, we continue to support our teacher and our employee through this difficult time. And we are not abandon you. We're here to support you. And we're here to pay you during these difficult times because you are here for our student and we are here for you. And it just shows a great commitment that we have as a school district to our community. And also, this crisis also bring out the xenophobia and anti-Asians racisms that we see. But it also have the community to come out and shows their great support and let people know that this kind of things is not acceptable. And so I truly believe that together we should be kind to each other and help each other getting through this crisis, and together we can defeat this virus and get back to a normal life, and our school district will come out much stronger than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Long. Director Meek?
So I think I provided most of my comments earlier. I'll just end with saying I really stand in awe of everything that's been accomplished in such a short amount of time. And I am so thrilled to see the community coming together and becoming even stronger. And I'm just very proud to be part of the board, and we're here to serve you. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meek. And the great thing about going last is I simply have to say ditto. Thank you, board directors, for your words, your insights, and truly I'm honored to work with each and every one of you through this crisis as well. You guys have been just incredibly passionate and focused and supportive. And so I just want to thank each and every one of you as well. I also want to do a quick shout out to Chris Shailene, Gautam Sethi, and Mike Riley, who they are responsible for getting us to this point of this remote production of our special meeting. We do anticipate that April 7th, we will be able to do this now with our regular meeting. And board directors, as you know, we have an agenda planning meeting scheduled this Friday at 11 o'clock. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Graziano, seconded by Chancho Shore. Let's vote. Chancho Shore,
Aye.
Graziano,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Holtzman,
Aye.
Lung,
Aye.
Meek,
Aye.
Ray, aye. That's unanimous. We are now adjourned. Thank you, board directors. Thank you, audience. And we'll look forward to continuing the journey. Take care.